All right, it's my pleasure to introduce Clyde. And Clyde comes to us from Virginia. And Clyde's going to speak with us regarding Virginia's delivery of agricultural best management practices this COVID-19 time. So Clyde, let's see if we can get that control over to you. I think you may have control now, and start your presentation, please.
Okay, good afternoon, Ray. As we transition from Alyssa's presentation, wanted to just let you know that VA no longer means Veterans Affairs, it now means Virginia in my slide. And am I hitting the down arrow or the right arrow, or just click on the mouse?
Just click on the mouse or move the mouse around a bit, see if that'll do it for you, and then give it a click, see if it'll work. There you are, all set.
Okay. Oh, I clicked too far.
Arrow button up. Let's see.
Previous.
You can use that one. Sure. There you are.
Okay, it's the delay that's getting me. So also I wanted to thank for that. If you saw those beautiful Steel chainsaws, for those of you that don't know, Steel's North American headquarters is located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and those chainsaws in Washington State were probably made here. So so with that little plug, transitioning now to back to the we've gone from the West Coast to the East Coast, and when you were talking about coffee earlier, and I was thinking it's time for lunch. So rather fascinating doing this webcam. So just here on the title slide, a little bit about the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation. One of the things I always enjoy about NASCA events is because I think I am unique in that we're one of the few agencies that has the soil and water, the dam safety, floodplain management, that also has state parks and our natural heritage and land conservation programs. So it's real interesting to see the different structure amongst the states as we travel around the world. So as luck would have it, and first of all, as I mentioned yesterday, in Virginia, we have 47 conservation districts. And of course, my dog has decided to start barking right as I got on here. We'll close the door and take care of that. So, and Virginia is a very diverse state. We touch to West Virginia and Kentucky to the west, and then obviously all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. And we have some very urbanized areas, but agriculture is the #1 industry in Virginia. I always like to remind folks of that. I'm afraid to click twice because I don't want to go to two slides ahead, but let's see. There we go. So I mentioned earlier about one of the things that we do with our agricultural cost share program, and to market it, that in our southern states distribution centers that a lot of our producers use. This is an example of the flyer that was actually put in the southern states stores to educate their customers about the opportunities that we have available. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a mouse problem here. There we go. We'll try that again. This is harder than it looks. Ray, I'm having a hard time getting the slide to advance here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Clyde. Is this the one you wanted?
Yes, thank you. So as I mentioned, we have 47 districts that administer the agricultural cost share program in Virginia. It run through the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and it overseen by our state soil and water board. And this is important background information to understand because of the fact that, doggone it, I keep losing my screen here, Ray. There we go. There we go. So fiscal year 2020, we were rocking and rolling. We had one of the record highest years for state funds appropriated by our General Assembly. We had $74 million for cost share funding. Set aside $8 million to the 47 districts for technical assistance. We have over 70 best management practices that are allowed under our Virginia Agricultural Cost Share Program. And we were rocking and rolling until Friday, March the 13th. I never was superstitious, but Friday the 13th has a new meaning now because that is the day that COVID-19 really hit in Virginia, state of emergency was declared, including under the state of emergency, gatherings of more than 10 people were prohibited. State agencies as well as our districts couldn't hold electronic meetings in most instances. And the cost share program, it's critical that both our state board as well as the district boards meets to approve cost share applications. And so some of our districts got real resourceful. We were having folks that were holding parking lot meetings because the Code of Virginia requires that you have to actually meet in person, but with COVID, we couldn't. And so people were actually meeting on cell phones in parking lots so that they actually were visibly seeing each other. But in some of the smaller districts were able to stay under the 10-person minimum and could meet with only a minimal quorum. Our state board was unable to meet totally, which was a real problem for us as we're trying to get a record amount of cost share out the door before June 30th. So one of the first steps that we did in order to address this was part of the governor's executive order authorized agency heads such as myself behalf on their boards that couldn't meet to waive state requirements or regulations. And so this was one of the first steps that we did was we issued waivers for several of the board policies and procedures, particularly their meeting requirements, extended the time that they had to obligate their cost share funds, several interim steps, but I will tell you it was a bit of a cluster and things weren't working well. Next slide, please, Ray. Thank you. This is so much easier you doing this for me and I'm not hitting the wrong button. So I already covered this slide, so we'll go on to the next one, Ray. Thank you. So the good news is that our General Assembly returned on a reconvened session in April 22nd. It was the most amazing thing. Our House of Delegates actually met outside on a very cold April day in the lawn of the Capitol, socially distanced. Was an amazing thing, but they passed a budget amendment that really helped us a lot, and it basically did an exemption to our Freedom of Information Act that only is effective under global pandemic health emergency, but it has allowed us, both our state board and our district boards, to meet using electronic formats. And so this really, the open government folks didn't like it, but really was critical to us keeping moving. I don't know if any other states would be interesting to hear if other states have had similar experiences. Our state board has now met electronically twice, and that's good too, because when we started this in March, we never thought that it would go into the next fiscal year. Our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30. So we got through this fiscal year 2020, where we had 74 million. For fiscal year 21, which began in July, we now have a little over 46 million. In the cost share program, and the board had to meet in order to do that. So again, using many of the electronic formats, and that's okay, Ray, if you can go on to the next one, that's great. One of the things that's really affected is the ability of folks to be working out of offices. For example, my office is on the 24th floor of a 24-story office building, and if you can get on an elevator and socially distance, we basically are still teleworking for most of the whole. I have literally been working in my home office since March, go into the office occasionally. And that is the same for a lot of the district offices. Some of the districts are able to keep working in their offices, but they don't allow walk-ins anymore. We do require department staff have to wear face coverings as part of our governor's executive order, especially around any members of the public and coworkers. However, we're able to do most field visits, and a lot of the work out in the field is able to continue, but we certainly are doing things by appointment now. We had some real challenges in training because training for district staff is so critical. And while we did revise some of the training requirements, we have gone more than 90% of our staff, of our training for the district staff is now virtual. One exception to that is nutrient management training that needs to be done in person, but with social distancing. And our Virginia Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts is doing a number of trainings on a variety of topics. As a matter of fact, they had training last week that they're all doing virtually. So, you know, again, just like everyone, we've had to amend our some of our policies. As a conservation agency, we used to mandate that our staff all carpooled. We now require staff to not carpool, and we prefer folks to either ride alone. If we do have two people in a vehicle, think of driving Miss Daisy. They are supposed to sit in the opposite corners in separate rows. So think left front driver, right rear passenger, and we require folks to ride with the windows down. And many of the districts have similar policies for the use of vehicles. So ironically, where we used to mandate carpooling, we're now mandating the exact opposite. So it has been a long, strange trip. Some of you, I think most of you may have seen that our governor tested positive for COVID-19 last week, and that was quite a shock to all of us, but it just shows how this thing is still here. And, you know, when we first started in March, I had people asking me how long I thought we'd be in this mode. And, you know, I think we said 6 months, and now we're, you know, who knows when this is going to be over. So many of these challenges that we've faced, our governor set early on the goal that state agencies would continue to operate as much as possible. And we have met that goal. It's been quite crazy. One of the biggest challenges through the entire thing, the governor declared that outdoor recreation was an essential function. And so our state parks remained open through all of this. We did close our campgrounds and cabins for a period of time, but even since June, we pretty much have been back in full operations with our state parks, although with some permanent differences in how we interact with the public. So Ray, I'm right on my 10-minute mark here. Thank you for driving for me. I don't know why I was having mouse problems here, but it's probably user error.
It's my pleasure. Hey, Clyde, one of our states reported that they actually had an uptake in cost share. And have you witnessed that in Virginia also? Actual increase in cost share work going on? And,
so the thing that's interesting in Virginia is that our amount of funding for cost share is driven by what's known as the Water Quality Improvement Act, and it provides 10% of any general fund revenue in excess of the official forecast, as well as 10% of any agency balances at the end of the fiscal year that are dedicated to our Water Quality Improvement Fund. And so our amount of cost share availability is based on the fluctuations in our state budget. And that's why we went from $74 million last year to $46 million this year. And next year we have a big question mark because we don't know yet. We think around $30 million. So the problem is the demand is as high as ever. Absolutely, we have not seen any reduction in demand. Unfortunately, what we've seen is reduction due to the state budget and the availability of cost share money to put out there.
Yeah, you've got quite a connection with. I mean, even your title is Department of Conservation and Recreation. So that connection like Missouri has, right? Do you share pots of money then with the recreation side of your house, of your state agency?
That's a great question. So our budget is actually broken into 7 different pots, if you will. So the money is pretty separated, but I will say that there is certainly a lot of cross-pollination. For example, in some of our state parks where we lease some of our land to ag producers, and we require that they have to use best management practices, but then they are also eligible for the cost share funding that comes through our Soil and Water Conservation District.
Sure. Well, very good, Clyde. Thanks so much. And again, I think of the power cluster of recreational organizations, right? Organizations that support the recreation in your state, and then the conservation organizations, and the powerhouse that you have of support there must be incredible.